for Europe's financial centres as well. Earlier I spoke to serial entrepreneur James Caan and asked him how these extreme levels of volatility have affected his business investments.
I've almost had to start completely from afresh because the last 10 years I think the UK's economy has seen an unprecedented level of growth, and all of a sudden, the growth has evaporated. And as entrepreneurs, I think we've got so used to the idea of liquidity in the market, making investments, going to banks, borrowing money, and all of a sudden, the banks are not lending any money. So whether we're investing in businesses or real estate, to have no lending available is just a completely different set of circumstances.
Yeah, I don't know, it'd be a difficult question for somebody in your shoes to answer, or a tough one, but weren't we due some kind of purge on this front? I mean, to be that reliant on debt, to be that reliant on leverage, was that a healthy environment that we'd got used to? Because you're right, we had got used to it.
I think, the thing that I find difficult to accept is the sheer extreme of the situation. We seem to, as an economy, we're so much in that boom or bust cycle. Why can't it just be a bit more stable? We're either got so much liquidity or we've got none. I just think markets hate uncertainty. They hate the sort of volatility. When I got up this morning, I turned the screen on and saw RBS share price shoot up 40%. I nearly fell off the table. I mean, this is not some techie, flaky stock. This is one of the largest institutions in our country. How can it swing 40%? I mean, the volatility, I think, is just unbelievable.
So is this impacting, in terms of your ability as an entrepreneur to go to the bank and get financing? Have you experience, either you or entrepreneurs you speak to, do you have experience of going to the bank and for projects that previously you would have thought, I'll have no problem getting funding for this, that you're just being turned down flat now?
I think it's much worse than that, because to put it into perspective, the banks are not even lending to themselves. The whole concept of interbank lending, which is the LIBOR rate, I mean, is at an unprecedented level between base rates. So if the banks are not confident in lending to each other, what chance does the entrepreneur have? So I think, this is a much bigger issue, and I think the problem is far greater than actually even people realise at this stage. Are
you happy with any of the actions that have been taken? We've seen on both sides of the Atlantic, whether it's the US government or the UK government, getting involved with bailing out some businesses, not bailing out others, changing the regulations. Are you happy with the way that regulators have reacted? You're not happy with the situation,
no,
so do they need to do more?
No, I'm really, really frustrated and disappointed, because why does it have to take the collapse of, an institution the size of Lehman Brothers for somebody to wake up and realise that they've got to do something? Surely prevention is better than cure. You shouldn't wait for a disaster. Don't wait for a catastrophe. This is the worst situation I think we've seen since the 1920s. And I'm just, the institutions and regulators, are surrounded by top economists, top advisors. Surely they should have seen this coming a year ago.
But of course they face the moral hazard that says to them, hang on a second, if we intervene here, where do we stop? Are we going to intervene in, are we going to backstop every single financial institution? If so, what does that mean for the liability that the taxpayer might face? And are we going to bail out other types of businesses? Because we know now that the UK government, for example, won't bail out car makers, they won't bail out other types of businesses that fail. So you think financials are so different that the whole game has changed this week? I
mean, I think the whole financial service, remember, in Britain today, our economy is so dependent on financial services. We're not a manufacturing base anymore, we're not an industrial base, we are a service sector economy, and financial services represents the largest chunk of that, and therefore the focus on this has to be important. I suppose my question is, why do you have to wait until something drastic happens? Even this decision yesterday by stopping shorting of stocks, that could have been done months ago. And just look at the impact it's had. Why do people want to sit on the fence as long as they do, watching disasters happen, and then they step in?
I suppose that the thing they're fearful of is over-regulating or rushing to regulate, which can be criticised as well, can't it? Because so often regulators, when they rush in, they can get things wrong and they can make the situation even worse.
I think they've got to be more considered, and all I'm saying is you should be in a position with the level of expertise that exists, within government, within financial markets. You've got got to be able to be brave. I mean, I noticed when in France recently there was a bit of an issue, and you know what? They came straight in. I think it's when a rogue trader lost a couple of billion. You know, it all happened within a week. Now, to me, clearly there are people out there who are capable of making decisions. All I'm saying is, please don't wait until disasters happen to step in, because it creates, you know, it just creates a lot of mistrust.
Yeah, sure. So you're an entrepreneur. Even in tough times, I'm sure you're looking for opportunities. Are there areas that you are looking at now and saying, well, this is really cheap, we've got to get involved in this sector?
I mean, valuations, I mean, my God, valuations have come off at levels I've just not seen. I mean, at the moment, I mean, I'm an active buyer of real estate. You know, I'm buying a huge amount of real estate in central London. You know, right now you can buy properties in Mayfair that typically you would never have seen on the market, but all of a sudden, because there's no liquidity, you're getting fantastic opportunities there. In private equity, I'm being offered businesses that, you know, really should have gone to the much larger institutions, but today I think this is a buyer's market, that if you've got liquidity, if you've got equity, and you're investing your own money, I think the response is, I'm definitely in.
And with regards to financial services, for those reasons you're out?
I'm out.
James, thank you very much for coming in. James Caan, a serial entrepreneur.